actually a great place. If if you're open and hungry towards the Lord, and you're sensitive towards Him, you don't have to have much else going on there together, because God will put everything else together. Because you have at least an obsession with the one. And there's a lot of things you don't need to know. You don't have to have it all figured out, and you certainly don't have to be, you know, people come to God right where they're at. That's why we go to Him. And that's, I always bring it up. He says, come to me if you're thirsty. So if you're not thirsty, maybe you won't really come to Him. He says, I'm real bread and real drink. And when we're self-satisfied, or we're satisfied with other things other than a holy obsession with God, then you're worse off than somebody going through a trial of their life that's obsessed with God. You're better off to be on your face before the Lord than you are to be, just not really having time for it or whatever. And it's a heart condition. It's the posture of our hearts. I've had some really humbling things come across my desk over the last few days, and as it were, come across my desk. That's just a way of saying in my life. But the truth is what does that do? What does that do? Does it distract you and pull you away from God, or does it draw you closer? Does it become something that's gets in your mind and becomes like a repeat on a YouTube song or something, And that's the obsession you now have? Or is He become that thing? Have we decided that the Bible talks about how if a man packs up all of his stuff and says, well, I've already got enough, I know what I'll do, I'll build barns and put more stuff in it. And then I'll just eat, drink, and be merry and settle back for the rest of my years. And Jesus was pointing out a condition of the heart where one is completely self-satisfied. And they don't have any hunger anymore. He says, he told this parable, this is in Luke 12:16, the ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. And he thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. Then he said, this is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I'll store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be for whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. Then he goes on to talk to them about not worrying about their life, what they're going to eat, or about their body, or what they're going to wear. Either your lack or your surplus can be a distraction and take you away from the things of God. Things can be good and you pull away from the Lord. Things can be bad and you pull away from the Lord. Really, it's just the posture of your heart throughout the whole process. If you allow yourself to be kept in God, in him, bearing fruit in all seasons. Isn't that what it says? Yeah. Bearing fruit because your roots go down by the river. You're bearing fruit in all seasons. Because that's always the source. If there's a lot, if there's plenty or lack, or a lack thereof, Paul said, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I've known what it means to have a lot and what it means to have a little. And I can do all things through Christ. And he's actually said, Jesus is everything. Is everything. So it doesn't really matter, you know. And we're not talking about money particularly here today, but kind of is crossing over. But you know, the rich, or the ones that have what they feel they need, Christ is in the middle. The rich are going to come down. Not a downgrade, but a down to something better. They're letting go of what was up here so they could find right here. And the poor are being raised up because they let go of what they didn't have, and they let go of who they were, and they found Christ. Both left something that was less to find the greater. That's why it talks about the rich being abased and the poor being raised up. It's good news to the poor, and for the rich, it's going to be it'll cost, but that cost is something like a pearl of great price, because it's for something greater. And the only people that fool themselves is the ones that look at what they don't have or what they do have, and then say, "Well, I can't, I don't know how to find that. I'm distracted with all of life's work. I'm worried about what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to drink, where I'm going to wear, where I'm going to sleep." Right. Or I've got all that and I'm self-satisfied. But either way, they've lost the plot, because Jesus is just saying, I'm right here, and I'm your life. I'm your real bread. I'm your real drink. You got to be wholly obsessed, a holy obsession with God. You could sit in meetings like this. You can grow comfortable in them. You can begin to take the anointing for granted. And be okay. We find people with somewhat regularity, really, if you get down to it, they just want to be sober. They just want to be sober. That's their self-satisfaction. They're just glad they're sober and they're no longer in that life. I get that. But this is greater. This is greater. I'll take rich. I don't need people off the street. I'll take rich people. I'll take disenfranchised people from all walks of life. You don't have to have been smoking a crank pipe before you came in here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Jesus, man, Nicodemus came and chased him down in the middle of the night. Look what his opposition was. He kind of probably had to seek him out in the middle of the night. I can't remember if it says it out specifically, but he probably sought him out in the middle of the night because he was concerned with his contemporaries and what they might think, because many of them wanted to kill him. Right. Even that one person, when they wanted to kill Paul, I think it was, he's like, look, if this stuff is going to come to nothing, maybe it was Peter. If this stuff comes to nothing, it comes to nothing. But if it's of God, then we should be getting out of the way of the problem. We should get out of the way. Come on. And he was talking to people that were raving mad in that moment. But there was that question mark in that dude's brain saying, man, if I'm wrong, I don't want to be on this side of history. But if we're right, well, then nothing's going to come of it, because if this guy's either a fool talking out his hat and there's nothing that's going to come of it, or this guy, it might be the Son of God. And if he's the Son of God, if he's the face of God for you and me, then woe unto me and woe unto all of us. Whoa. Ooh. You know, say woe to a horse when you want that thing to stop. Oh, I better check myself. Put the brakes on here, man. Maybe I'm going forward full steam ahead with whatever it is. There's nothing you're going through, and there's nothing that you're going to ever go through. Whether it seems the future looks bright or looks complex, there's nothing you're ever going to go through that God isn't right there with a full-blown river and tearing right through that burning sand and isn't saying, come. Come to the waters. Come and buy wine and milk and bread with no money. And get it for free. Because I'm the real deal.